next and move on to the next speaker. We have Cole Chance. Alright, love the spirit. Okay, so this is the last speaker. Before she starts, I'm gonna read her bio for a bit. So Cole has been a seeker all her life. It has brought her into the depths of addiction to all corners of the world, and most importantly to the path of yoga. Though through this practice, she has begun to understand, unreveal, and explore the most fascinating of all landscapes, the inner one. Cole is currently based here in Ubud while teaching yoga online and around the globe. So everyone, please welcome Cole!
All right, hello. This might get a little more heavy, but I'll promise I'll bring you back up. I know what the deep end of isolation feels like, and I know what shame could do to a person in the depths one will go not to feel it. This is a love story, a rupture and redemption, a losing and a finding. I was a happy child. I came from a very loving family. The first time I questioned my worth was in middle school, when the cocktail of preteen hormones kicked in and acceptance was the currency. I began to have anxiety without knowing its name. At 13, I tried alcohol for my first time, and a life I didn't realize was black and white turned into a vivid technicolor. As the ease flooded in, I promised myself that I was going to do this forever. I started sneaking out of the house, and I met a cool older boyfriend. And the first time I had sex, I got pregnant at 14. The abortion was held in a small, Christian, conservative, middle American town with protesters there to welcome me and let me know their opinion. On top of numbing out the anxiety, I now had a new beast called shame to suppress. I digested not that I had made some bad choices, but that I was bad. A story I set out to prove again and again. If high school was a daze, then my college attempts were a blackout. Hard partying took priority, and I was a good bad girl. I was having fun. I loved the way drugs and alcohol made me feel more like me, the most like me. I felt connected, vibrant, amplified, ignited. I had this vision of myself with my head thrown back, my eyes closed, mouth open, laughing, joy. The problem was that my brain and my body were becoming heavily dependent. As time passed, the neural pathways deepened, my tolerance rose, and I started drinking in the mornings to quell the shakes that were coursing through my body as it demanded its medicine. I knew I was sick, but I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to be sober. I wanted to find a way to do it right. I went to 5 or 6 different rehabs. I was on rehab tour. Luckily, in one of them, I took my first yoga class. I recall the focus on the breath and the movement brought a sense of ease that I hadn't felt in a long time. And the teacher described Namaste as my higher self sees your higher self. And that was a revelation, as I didn't know I had a higher self. I completed the program and I was drunk within a few hours. This chaos went on for several years, but a seed had been planted. In those days, rather than asking me how the drug and alcohol use was doing, you could ask me when's the last time I'd been to a yoga class, and you could deduce the same answer. Back in my addiction, my previous joys had been replaced by dry heaving and desperation. by seizures, handcuffs, ambulances, and lots of hospitals. In the end, my mother, my biggest advocate, had to cut me off while she waited for the phone call that no parent wanted to get. My addiction felt like a deep, thick, abrasive claustrophobia, like I was inside a bubble, that I could see the world but I couldn't interact. My medicine had become my poison. My grace came in the form of a heroin overdose. When I came to in excruciating pain, I did the only thing I knew how, and I went to the liquor store, but it did not work. Nothing happened. There was no ease for my dis-ease. The high and the happy that used to go together were never going to go together again. And my psyche was cracking. My mask and my denial had been ripped away, and it had to be over. Soon after I crawled my way into a yoga studio, I got down on my knees in child's pose, that beautiful pose of surrender, and I lost it, ugly cry style. Deep grief, but also the first glimpses of hope. I knew I had to stay on my mat, and I did, and I've been sober ever since. I still frequent rehab, but now to teach. I'm carrying on one of my teacher's programs, teaching yoga at the prison here in Bali. And my mother and I have a beautiful relationship. My practice continues to be my refuge, where I come back to meet myself again and again, and not only my higher self, but all parts of me. I most certainly am still a rebel, but I no longer believe that I'm bad. And when that story arises, I'm getting better and better at soothing that wounded part of myself. My biggest lesson has been through vulnerability, sharing and listening, and the understanding that pain is not personal, but it is collective. And rather than isolating, it can be connecting. I have seen shame hit the floor when tough words reach the air and are met with a nod of understanding. We are not that different. We all want to be seen. And that permission, that recognition of a shared humanity, that is a love story.